What if I told you that some of the greatest civilizations on Earth didn't slowly fade away? They simply stopped. One day, cities were alive with footsteps, voices, trade, and ritual. The next, silence. Streets abandoned. Fires left cold. No final warning carved into stone. No goodbye written down. Just absence. Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that entire nations, engineers, astronomers, kings, farmers, had vanished without a trace. Not conquered, not remembered, just gone. The unsettling truth is this has already happened again and again throughout history. And the most disturbing part isn't how these civilizations collapsed. It's how suddenly they disappeared and how fragile their worlds were, worlds that once seemed eternal. The world is full of whispers, echoes from the past that fade into silence with each passing century. In the stillness of time, entire civilizations, once vibrant and thriving, seem to have vanished in an instant, leaving nothing behind but the traces of their existence buried in the dust. Imagine, if you will, the soft murmur of a forgotten world, where grand cities stretched across the horizon, their marketplaces bustling with life, and their streets illuminated by the glow of torches. Now imagine these places swallowed whole by the earth, their people lost to history. This is the enigma we set out to explore, the civilizations that vanished, not slowly over generations, but seemingly overnight. In the blink of an eye, entire worlds crumbled and disappeared, leaving behind only ruins, myths, and questions that linger in the air like unanswered prayers. How could a society so advanced in its time, so full of promise, simply cease to exist? Was it an act of nature, a force of fate, or was it something darker, something we still cannot comprehend? We begin our journey in the realms of mystery, where history and myth collide, with tales that have survived centuries, but still elude our understanding. The ruins of ancient civilizations stand like silent sentinels, watching over a forgotten past. From the bustling cities of the Indus Valley to the magnificent palaces of the Minoans, from the lost kingdom of Ubar to the famous city of Troy, these worlds were once teeming with life, brimming with culture, innovation, and grandeur. Yet today, they exist only in fragments, clues to a puzzle that has never quite been solved. As we move through these stories, we will explore not just the histories of these vanished worlds, but the mysteries that shroud them. The question we ask is not only how these civilizations fell, but why they disappeared so suddenly, leaving behind only faint remnants for us to piece together. What caused their downfall? Was it an external force like a cataclysmic event or invasion, or was the collapse of these civilizations born from within, from social unrest, climate change, or a combination of factors? We'll uncover the contrast between their vibrant existence and the eerie void they left behind, probing the unknowns of history and the shadows that linger where answers should be. Each civilization's story will reveal not just a historical fact, but a mystery, a story of a world that once was and a world that is no more, casting a haunting yet calming reflection on the transience of human achievement. This is more than a historical exploration. It is an invitation to drift into the unknown, to peer into the darkened corners of our shared past and wonder, how did these worlds, so rich in culture, art, and knowledge, disappear? What secrets do their ruins hold? And what truths lie buried beneath the surface? The answers, though elusive, are worth seeking, and perhaps, in the pursuit of these mysteries, we will come to understand not only the past, but the very nature of civilization itself. With these questions in mind, we begin our journey into the heart of history's most compelling and unexplained disappearances, inviting you to join us in unraveling the silent echoes of lost worlds. The Indus Valley Civilization, known for its sophisticated urban planning and advanced technologies, flourished around 2500 BCE. Located in what is now modern-day Pakistan and northwest India, this ancient culture created one of the most remarkable urban centers of the ancient world. Cities like Harappa and Mohenjo-daro boasted wide, meticulously planned streets, impressive drainage systems, and complex architectural layouts that would be enviable even by today's standards. Yet, despite its apparent prosperity and ingenuity, the Indus Valley civilization vanished with little warning or explanation, leaving behind nothing but ruins and a mystery that still endures. One of the most fascinating aspects of this ancient civilization is its ability to thrive without leaving any overt record of its language or extensive written texts. While many ancient cultures like Egypt and Mesopotamia left behind vast libraries of inscriptions, the script of the Indus Valley remains undeciphered. This absence of written records adds a layer of intrigue to their disappearance. Was their language too complex to decipher, or was it lost to time, perhaps destroyed in the same cataclysm that led to their downfall? The disappearance of the Indus Valley people has sparked numerous theories, each one attempting to unravel the causes of their sudden collapse. Some scholars point to environmental factors, perhaps a drastic shift in the climate that led to droughts or river changes, leaving the cities without water. The primary water source for the civilization, the Indus River, has changed course over the millennia, and there is evidence suggesting the river may have dried up or diverted during a critical period. If the river dried up, it would have dealt a severe blow to the agricultural system, leading to famine and social upheaval. Another theory suggests that the collapse of the Indus Valley civilization may have been the result of internal conflict. The cities, despite their advanced systems, were not immune to the social pressures that often lead to the downfall of great civilizations. Was there internal strife, perhaps in the form of political or economic struggles, that led to their fall? Archaeological evidence shows no signs of a violent invasion, yet there are indications of a gradual decline, with the cities being abandoned in waves rather than being destroyed in a single catastrophic event. Some researchers have even posited more speculative explanations. Could a catastrophic natural disaster, such as an earthquake or a series of devastating floods, have struck suddenly and caused the civilization to collapse overnight? The mysterious nature of their disappearance has led some to suggest that the collapse may have been a perfect storm of environmental factors, social unrest, and perhaps even a shift in trade routes that disconnected the cities from the wider ancient world. As we explore the mystery of the Indus Valley's sudden fall, it's crucial to recognize the paradox at play, a society that reached such incredible heights, only to vanish without a trace. The cities themselves, though long abandoned, still stand as a testament to the ingenuity of their people. But they also serve as a reminder of how fragile even the most powerful civilizations can be in the face of unpredictable forces. The absence of any definitive answers to the collapse only deepens the mystery, leaving us with a chilling question. Could such a sudden disappearance happen again? And if so, would we even recognize it? The mystery of the Indus Valley civilization's demise reminds us that history is full of gaps, places where we may never find answers, only clues. These ancient cities, once bustling with life, now lie silent in the dust, a stark contrast to the lives that once filled them. As we move forward in our exploration of civilizations lost to time, the Indus Valley remains one of the most haunting examples of a world that disappeared not just physically, but perhaps, in some ways, culturally and spiritually as well. On the sunlit island of Crete, the Minoan civilization once flourished, leaving behind magnificent palaces, intricate frescoes, and the echoes of a vibrant culture that has fascinated historians for centuries. The Minoans, named after the mythical king Minos, are credited with creating one of the earliest advanced civilizations in Europe, thriving around 2000 BCE to 1450 BCE. Their society was marked by impressive advancements in art, architecture, and trade, and the Grand Palace of Knossos stood as a symbol of their cultural and technological achievements. Yet, despite their apparent prosperity, the Minoans, too, met an abrupt and mysterious end. In a matter of years, their once thriving civilization crumbled, leaving us to wonder what caused their sudden fall. One of the most well-known theories surrounding the Minoan collapse centers on the eruption of Thera, modern-day Santorini, a volcanic island situated just north of Crete. Around 1600 BCE, the eruption was one of the most catastrophic volcanic events in human history, sending massive ash clouds into the atmosphere and triggering widespread environmental upheaval. The eruption is believed to have caused tsunamis that struck the coastal cities of Crete, and the ashfall would have wreaked havoc on agriculture, poisoning crops, and affecting the food supply. Many researchers argue that this natural disaster might have been the catalyst that triggered the Minoan civilization's decline. However, the story is far from simple. While the volcanic eruption may have played a significant role, evidence suggests that the Minoans' collapse was not solely due to this disaster. The timeline of the eruption and the collapse of Minoan society do not perfectly align, and some argue that the civilization was already in decline before the eruption. What's more, the Minoans were an expansive maritime power with extensive trade networks across the Mediterranean. Their dominance in the region and their cultural influence were well established long before the volcanic eruption occurred. Was the eruption merely the final blow in a series of ongoing internal issues? Another compelling theory suggests that the Minoans may have suffered from internal strife or political instability, which could have weakened their civilization long before the eruption. The Minoans were ruled by a complex network of palaces, each a center of power, but there is evidence of shifts in the political landscape during the period leading up to their decline. In particular, the gradual abandonment of many important Minoan sites suggests a slow unraveling of the society's unity, possibly due to disputes over resources, succession, or power struggles within the ruling elite. Furthermore, there is the question of foreign influence. The Minoans had long been in contact with other ancient cultures, including the Egyptians, Mesopotamians, and even the Mycenaeans from mainland Greece. The rise of the Mycenaeans around the 15th century BCE marked a shift in power in the Mediterranean region. Could the Minoans have fallen victim to external invasion or military pressure from the increasingly powerful Mycenaean civilization? Evidence of Mycenaean pottery and architecture found in Minoan sites suggests that the two cultures had interactions, and some scholars believe that the Mycenaeans might have played a role in the Minoans' downfall, either through conquest or assimilation. Despite these theories, no single explanation can fully account for the Minoan collapse. The evidence is scattered, and the cause remains shrouded in mystery. The fall of the Minoans is a prime example of how a once dominant civilization can collapse under a complex interplay of factors: natural disasters, internal unrest, and foreign invasion. Each of these elements, when combined, might have led to the disintegration of the Minoan world. As we look upon the ruins of Knossos and the other Minoan sites today, we are reminded of the fragility of human achievement. The palaces, once teeming with life, are now silent, and the vibrant frescoes that adorn their walls are all that remain of a culture that once mastered the art of living. The Minoan disappearance raises profound questions about the impermanence of civilization, and it invites us to consider how easily even the greatest cultures can slip into obscurity. In the end, the Minoans, like so many other civilizations, left us with a legacy of beauty and mystery, but no clear answers about why their world ended so abruptly. The contrast between their dazzling achievements and their sudden disappearance is a reminder of how fleeting human endeavors can be, and how little we may truly understand about the forces that shape the rise and fall of civilizations. As we move forward in our exploration of vanished worlds, the Minoans will remain a haunting and compelling chapter in the long and mysterious story of humanity's past. The tale of Troy, one of the most iconic and enduring stories of ancient warfare, has captivated the imagination of generations. Brought to life in Homer's epic poems, the Iliad and the Odyssey, the city of Troy is portrayed as a prosperous, powerful kingdom whose legendary walls and gates stood strong against the might of Greek invaders. According to the myth, Troy fell in a single, dramatic night after a 10-year siege, when the Greeks, concealing themselves inside a giant wooden horse, succeeded in infiltrating the city and bringing about its ruin. But was Troy a real place, or merely a product of myth? Did the city's destruction happen exactly as described in Homer's poetic account, or are the events more complex than the story suggests? For centuries, the existence of Troy was debated among scholars. The city, if it ever existed, seemed lost to history, a fable told by poets and storytellers. That is, until the late 19th century, when the German archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann, driven by his belief in the veracity of Homer's stories, set out to find the ancient city. Schliemann's excavations in modern-day Turkey, in a site known as Hizarlik, led to the discovery of a sprawling ancient city buried beneath the earth. What he uncovered was a series of ruins, indicating that a great city had indeed existed at this location, and the evidence suggested that the legendary city of Troy might not be just a myth after all. Schliemann's find reignited the debate over the fate of Troy. Was this city the same one that Homer described, or was it merely a different settlement entirely, its destruction unrelated to the famous Trojan War? The archaeological evidence uncovered by Schliemann and later excavations revealed multiple layers of destruction across centuries. But the most intriguing layer is one that dates back to around 1200 BCE. In this layer, there is evidence of violent destruction, burnt ruins, collapsed walls, and signs of a brutal attack. Some scholars suggest that this could indeed correspond to the historical kernel of Homer's story, indicating that Troy did, in fact, fall in a single night of chaos, much like the myth suggests. Yet, even with this evidence of destruction, the question remains, was the fall of Troy the result of a prolonged siege, or was it the result of a much swifter and more dramatic event? According to the Iliad, the war dragged on for 10 long years, as the Greeks and Trojans fought in a war of attrition. Yet the destruction of Troy is ultimately described as occurring swiftly, with the famous use of the Trojan horse as the turning point. Did such an event occur in history, or was it a fictional embellishment? Some scholars argue that the story of the Trojan horse is a symbolic representation of the Greeks' cunning and resourcefulness rather than an actual wooden contraption used in warfare. Others suggest that it could be an allegory for a stealthy infiltration, a metaphor for the city's eventual betrayal. There's also the possibility that Troy's fall was not a singular event at all. The city may have experienced multiple waves of attack, internal strife, and shifting alliances in the years before its final destruction. As the Bronze Age collapsed across the eastern Mediterranean, cities such as Mycenae, Hattusa, and others experienced similar falls, often marked by invasions and social upheaval. Some scholars believe that Troy's destruction could have been the result of these broader regional shifts, with the city's strategic location making it a target for invaders during a time of widespread instability. If this theory is correct, Troy may have been the victim of a series of calamities rather than a single dramatic siege. As we dig deeper into the historical context, it becomes clear that the fall of Troy may be more than just a myth, but also a tragic reflection of the ancient world's harsh realities. The city was not the only one to face destruction during this period. The collapse of several ancient civilizations around the same time, including the Mycenaeans and the Hittites, suggests that the end of the Bronze Age was a time of widespread collapse. The causes of this collapse are still debated, whether they were triggered by invasions, climate change, or a combination of factors. But Troy's demise may be emblematic of a much larger pattern of societal breakdown. In this way, the story of Troy is a blend of myth and history, a tale that continues to fascinate us not just because of its dramatic destruction, but because it raises questions about the nature of historical truth. Was Homer's epic merely a poetic retelling of a real event? Or was it a product of later imaginations trying to make sense of a society that had fallen into ruin? The answer remains elusive, but one thing is certain. The fall of Troy, whether in the flash of one night or over the course of many years, stands as a powerful symbol of the fragility of human achievement. The ruins of Troy, much like the ruins of other ancient cities, remind us that even the greatest civilizations can be brought low, whether by war, catastrophe, or time itself. As we reflect on Troy, we are faced with the contrast between the city's once great walls and the ruins that remain. What was once a thriving, powerful civilization now lies in pieces, its fate an enduring enigma. And while we may never fully unravel the truth of Troy's destruction, the story lives on, its lessons echoing across centuries, a reminder of how the forces of fate and time can sweep away even the most formidable of civilizations. In the vast, arid plains of southern Peru, a mystery lies etched into the earth, an enigma that has intrigued explorers, archaeologists, and historians for centuries. The Nazca civilization, which flourished between 200 BCE and 600 CE, is best known for its astonishing geoglyphs, immense, intricate patterns carved into the desert floor. These designs, some of which are several kilometers long, depict animals, plants, and geometric shapes that are best viewed from the air. Yet at the time they were created, the Nazca people had no way of seeing them from above. Why did this ancient civilization, with its advanced knowledge of art and engineering, create such monumental and mysterious symbols? What was their purpose, and why did the Nazca people, along with their once thriving culture, seemingly vanish? The Nazca lines, as they are known, are perhaps the most famous aspect of this civilization, but they are also one of the greatest mysteries. Spanning hundreds of square kilometers, these geoglyphs appear to have been intentionally designed to be viewed only from a great height, perhaps by the gods, or perhaps by future generations. Some scholars suggest that the lines were created for religious or ceremonial purposes, serving as offerings to deities or as pathways for ritual processions. Others propose that the designs might have been a form of astronomical calendar, with the lines aligning with celestial events or helping the Nazca people track the movements of the stars and planets. The sheer scale of these creations suggests that they required extensive planning, advanced knowledge of geometry, and an understanding of the desert's unique landscape. But as stunning as the geoglyphs are, they are only one part of the Nazca mystery. This ancient civilization was also known for its remarkable achievements in engineering, especially in water management. In the arid environment of southern Peru, where rainfall is scarce, the Nazca built an intricate network of aqueducts and irrigation systems to bring water to their crops. These aqueducts, some still in use today, demonstrate a sophisticated understanding of hydraulics and water distribution. It is clear that the Nazca were not only artistically talented, but also technologically advanced. Yet despite their ingenuity, their civilization crumbled. So what happened to the Nazca? Why did a people who demonstrated such impressive technological and artistic capabilities disappear so suddenly and mysteriously? One of the leading theories points to environmental factors, particularly the issue of water scarcity. The Nazca region is notoriously dry, and the civilization's survival relied heavily on an intricate system of irrigation and aqueducts to sustain their agricultural economy. Evidence suggests that the region experienced periods of severe drought, which could have placed immense pressure on the Nazca people, eventually leading to a collapse of their agricultural systems. Without reliable access to water, the civilization's foundations would have begun to crumble, leading to widespread hardship and social disintegration. There are also suggestions that the Nazca, like other ancient civilizations, may have fallen victim to warfare or internal conflict. The arrival of new groups in the region, or perhaps an internal power struggle, could have destabilized the once thriving society. Some archaeologists have speculated that the Nazca, caught between environmental pressures and social turmoil, may have been forced to abandon their cities and migrate to other regions. In this theory, the gradual abandonment of the major Nazca centers might have been a response to an insurmountable crisis, a combination of environmental, political, and social pressures that the civilization could no longer withstand. However, the mystery deepens when considering other, more speculative theories. Some researchers have posited that the Nazca civilization may have disappeared as a result of spiritual or religious reasons. Given the prominence of ritual and symbolism in Nazca culture, it is possible that the civilization's people experienced a religious crisis or shift in beliefs that led to their abandonment of traditional ways of life. Some have even suggested that the Nazca could have been the victims of a massive, supernatural event, a theory that ties into the idea that the civilization's mysterious symbols were meant to appease powerful, unseen forces. Could the Nazca, as their civilization began to unravel, have felt they were being punished by the gods, causing them to abandon their cities and disappear into the desert. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Nazca mystery is the question of why they chose to leave behind such an extraordinary legacy, only to vanish without a trace. The Nazca lines remain as one of the most enduring and puzzling monuments of the ancient world. Though their purpose may never be fully understood, they continue to draw attention, both for their sheer scale and their enigmatic meaning. The Nazca civilization may have disappeared, but its legacy endures, embedded in the landscape, as a reminder of a people whose cultural and technological achievements remain as mysterious and profound as their sudden vanishing. As we reflect on the fall of the Nazca, we are left with the haunting image of their geoglyphs, stretching across the barren desert, telling stories that have yet to be deciphered. The Nazca disappeared, but the questions they left behind about their art, their culture, and their ultimate fate remain unanswered. The lines they etched into the earth continue to stir our imaginations, a reminder that the mysteries of the past are never truly gone. Just as the Nazca civilization once left its mark on the landscape, so too does the mystery of their disappearance continue to leave its mark on our collective consciousness, inviting us to look deeper into the unknown, to seek the answers hidden beneath the sands of time. As we delve into the mysteries of these lost civilizations, we are confronted with a sobering truth. No society, no matter how great or advanced, is impervious to the ravages of time. Each civilization we've explored, from the intricate urban landscapes of the Indus Valley to the grandeur of the Minoans and the enigmatic artistry of the Nazca, offers us not just a glimpse into their once thriving worlds, but also a haunting reminder of how easily even the most sophisticated cultures can fade into history. These societies, though seemingly invincible at their peak, were ultimately fragile in ways that we are only beginning to understand. The Indus Valley, with its meticulously planned cities and cutting-edge sanitation systems, might have seemed like an enduring beacon of civilization. Yet, despite its remarkable achievements, it was undone by forces, some natural, some perhaps social, that led to its abrupt abandonment. Similarly, the Minoans, with their stunning palaces and thriving maritime economy, were swallowed by a combination of environmental disasters, internal strife, and shifting power dynamics. And the Nazca, who carved massive geoglyphs into the earth and engineered complex aqueduct systems, found themselves undone by the very forces of nature they had once harnessed to survive. As we shift our gaze from one civilization to the next, we begin to see a pattern: the fragility of human achievement. All of these great cultures, in their own way, were shaped by the forces of nature, climate, geography, and disaster. Yet, equally important were the internal forces that shaped their destinies: social upheaval, political instability, and the pressures that come with the rise and fall of empires. In each case, the civilizations we've explored were built on the delicate balance of these factors. And when that balance was disrupted, whether by natural disaster, a resource crisis, or an internal conflict, their once thriving worlds collapsed with astonishing speed. This realization brings us to a pivotal question: what does it mean for us today, in the modern world, to study these ancient civilizations? If these great societies, whose monuments and achievements still awe us, could disappear so suddenly, what does that say about the longevity of our own civilization? As we look at the ruins of the Indus Valley, the fallen walls of the Minoan palaces, and the desolate Nazca Desert, we are reminded of the impermanence of human endeavors. These are not just stories of ancient cultures. They are cautionary tales, reminders that nothing in history is ever truly secure. The fragility of these ancient worlds forces us to confront a deeper question about the nature of progress. Are we, like the civilizations that came before us, building something that might one day be lost to time? Are our technological advances, our cities, and our achievements, as grand as they may seem, as vulnerable as the civilizations of the past? The answer is unclear, but what is certain is that the past holds lessons we would be wise to heed. These civilizations were, in their time, the pinnacles of human achievement. Yet they were ultimately undone by forces beyond their control. The Nazca, with their incredible desert carvings, the Minoans with their flourishing cities, and the Indus people with their advanced urban designs, were all brought low by a combination of circumstances that, in hindsight, seem inevitable, even if they could not have foreseen them. As we reflect on the rise and fall of these ancient worlds, we are confronted with the humbling reality that history is not a linear path of progress, but a series of cycles. Civilizations grow, flourish, and inevitably fall, swept away by forces both known and unknown. The ancient civilizations we've examined may no longer walk among us, but their legacies, whether in the form of crumbling ruins, mysterious symbols etched into the earth, or unanswered questions, continue to echo across the ages. Their stories are not just tales of loss, but of the fragility of all human endeavors. And so, as we pause to reflect on the civilizations that have vanished, we are left with a lingering thought. What will become of us? Will our cities crumble in the sands of time, leaving only fragments of our achievements behind, like the cities of the past? Or will we, through the lessons of history, find a way to endure and thrive, learning from the mistakes of those who came before us? The answers remain uncertain, but one thing is clear. History, in all its mystery and complexity, is a mirror in which we can glimpse the future. The fragility of ancient worlds is not just a historical curiosity. It is a reminder of our shared human vulnerability and the ever-present possibility that all that we build may one day fade into the past. In this brief moment of reflection, we bridge the gap between ancient history and our own future, understanding that the forces that shaped the fall of past civilizations are not relegated to a distant time, but continue to shape the world we live in today. The ruins of the past, in their silence, speak volumes, urging us to look deeper, question more, and remember that the fragility of civilizations is not just a story from the past, but a timeless truth. The Maya civilization, one of the most advanced and complex cultures of the ancient world, flourished across Mesoamerica for over 1,000 years, from around 2000 BCE until their sudden decline in the 9th century CE. Their cities, including Copan, Tikal, and Palenque, were architectural marvels, adorned with towering pyramids, intricate carvings, and expansive plazas. The Maya were not only skilled builders and artists, but also remarkable mathematicians and astronomers, whose understanding of the cosmos far surpassed that of many contemporary cultures. Yet, despite their advancements, the Maya civilization mysteriously began to collapse in a short span of time. Cities were abandoned, their once vibrant streets now silent, and their temples, which once echoed with ritual and life, stood as monuments to a world that had vanished. What could have caused such a sudden downfall for a civilization that had reached such impressive heights? The decline of the Maya civilization is a puzzle that has perplexed historians and archaeologists for centuries. Some theories suggest that the collapse was the result of environmental factors, particularly a prolonged period of drought. Evidence of climate change, especially a significant decrease in rainfall, has been found in the region during the time of the Maya's decline. Without the steady flow of water from rivers and rainfall to support their agricultural systems, the Maya could have faced catastrophic crop failures, which would have led to famine, social unrest, and a breakdown of the political order. The Maya were deeply reliant on maize as a staple crop, and any disruption to its growth would have had devastating consequences. As the droughts worsened, the cities that once flourished became increasingly uninhabitable, forcing the Maya to abandon their once prosperous urban centers. Another theory posits that the fall of the Maya civilization was the result of internal social and political turmoil. The Maya civilization was not a single unified empire, but rather a collection of independent city-states, each with its own ruling elite and political structure. This fragmented political system may have contributed to the collapse. The competition for resources, combined with the strain of a growing population and diminishing agricultural yields, could have sparked conflicts between cities. As power struggles intensified, Internal divisions likely weaken the Maya's ability to respond to external pressures, such as environmental changes or invaders. Evidence of warfare, with the remains of massacred civilians and leaders found in some sites, suggests that conflict within the Maya world may have contributed to the destabilization of their civilization. However, the fall of the Maya cannot be attributed solely to environmental or political factors. Many scholars believe that the Maya's downfall was a result of a complex combination of forces, both internal and external, that gradually eroded their society. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Maya collapse is the timing. While the southern cities of the Maya lowlands experienced a sharp decline in the 9th century CE, many northern cities, such as Chichen Itza, continued to thrive for another century. This suggests that the collapse was not uniform and may have been regionally specific, with some areas succumbing to environmental pressures more rapidly than others. The differences between the northern and southern Maya cities raise questions about how different regions of the civilization were impacted by the same underlying issues and what factors led to the abandonment of certain cities while others remained occupied. The Maya civilization was also deeply religious, and their rulers were seen as divine intermediaries between the gods and the people. As the droughts worsened and crops failed, the Mayas' belief in their rulers' ability to control the forces of nature may have been tested. The failure of the rulers to prevent the environmental crisis could have led to a loss of faith in their leadership, further destabilizing the society. The decline of religious authority, combined with the failure of the ruling elites to address the crisis, may have contributed to the breakdown of social order and the eventual collapse of the cities. In addition to these internal struggles, external forces may have played a role in the Maya collapse. By the time the southern cities were abandoned, other cultures, such as the Toltecs, were rising to power in the region. The Maya, once the dominant civilization in Mesoamerica, may have faced pressures from neighboring groups seeking to expand their influence. These external invasions or cultural shifts could have compounded the Maya's internal struggles, hastening the collapse of their once great cities. As we reflect on the fall of the Maya, we are confronted with the complexity of their civilization and the mystery of their sudden collapse. The Maya were not a simple society. They were an intricate web of city-states, each with its own unique culture, politics, and religious practices. Their downfall was not the result of a single factor, but rather a convergence of environmental, political, and social pressures that overwhelmed them. The Maya were masters of astronomy, yet they could not foresee the environmental changes that would bring their civilization to its knees. They built grand cities, but those cities could not withstand the forces of nature and internal strife. The story of the Maya is a testament to both their achievements and their vulnerabilities. The ruins of the Maya cities, with their crumbling temples and abandoned plazas, stand as silent reminders of a once great civilization. Today, we can only speculate on the final days of these cities, imagining the lives of the people who once thrived there. Did they watch their world unravel slowly, or was their collapse as sudden as it seems in the archaeological record? The fall of the Maya remains one of the most profound mysteries in history, a tragic tale of a civilization that reached extraordinary heights, only to disappear in the face of forces they could not control. As we ponder the Maya's legacy, we are reminded that all civilizations, no matter how advanced or powerful, are susceptible to the unpredictable forces of nature, politics, and time. The Maya may have vanished, but their achievements in science, art, and architecture continue to inspire us, while their downfall serves as a powerful reminder of the fragility of even the most flourishing of civilizations. In the heart of the Arabian Peninsula, amidst the vast, unyielding deserts, there lies a legend that has fascinated explorers and historians for centuries. The lost kingdom of Ubar, often referred to as the Atlantis of the Sands, has been the subject of countless myths and tales. Described in ancient texts as a prosperous and advanced civilization, Ubar was said to be a thriving trading hub that controlled the lucrative incense trade, with its wealth rivaling that of any great empire. Its capital, a city of grandeur and opulence, was said to be filled with towering structures, exquisite palaces, and vast stores of treasure. Yet, despite its glory, Ubar vanished from the face of the earth in a single, catastrophic event, disappearing into the sands of the desert. What happened to this legendary kingdom? Was it swallowed by the desert, as some accounts suggest, or did it fall victim to other, more complex forces? The first written accounts of Ubar appear in ancient texts, including the Quran, which mentions a prosperous kingdom that was destroyed by the wrath of God due to its people's arrogance and corruption. According to the legend, Ubar's inhabitants were punished for their sins when their city was swallowed whole by a massive sandstorm, disappearing without a trace. This story, passed down through generations, became the foundation for the myth of Ubar, one of the most tantalizing mysteries in the ancient world. For centuries, the existence of Ubar was questioned. Many believed that the city was purely a myth, a fantastical story passed down through the ages without any basis in historical fact. But in the late 20th century, the myth began to take on a more tangible form. In 1992, the National Geographic Society launched an expedition to the Rub al-Khali, or the empty quarter of the Arabian Desert, the largest sand desert in the world. Using satellite imagery and ground surveys, researchers identified a site in the desert that seemed to match the ancient descriptions of Ubar. This discovery, which pointed to the ruins of an ancient city buried beneath the shifting sands, revived interest in the lost kingdom and spurred further exploration into the truth behind the legend. The city that was uncovered in the Rub al-Khali, though not yet definitively linked to Ubar, provided compelling evidence that a prosperous settlement had once existed in the area. Archaeologists found the remains of what appeared to be a complex trading center, with evidence of ancient wells, large stone structures, and even remnants of luxury goods that suggested a culture deeply involved in trade and commerce. The ruins, however, were mostly buried under several layers of sand, and many of the structures had collapsed, leaving only faint traces of their former glory. The mystery of Ubar deepened further. Was this the city described in ancient texts, or was it simply another, lesser-known civilization that had met a similar fate? Several theories have emerged regarding the downfall of Ubar. One of the most plausible explanations points to a natural disaster, specifically the collapse of the region's water supply. Ubar was said to have controlled the vital incense trade, which required large quantities of water to sustain the agricultural systems that supported the city's population. Over time, the wells that provided this water could have run dry, leaving the inhabitants vulnerable to the harsh desert conditions. A lack of water could have led to a slow but inevitable decline, causing the city to be abandoned before it was eventually buried by sand. Another theory suggests that the fall of Ubar was the result of a sudden, catastrophic event, such as an earthquake or a massive sandstorm. The ancient texts describing the city's destruction often mention the wrath of God and the idea of the city being swallowed by the desert, leading some to speculate that Ubar may have been hit by an earthquake, causing the ground to crack and swallow the city whole. This theory is supported by the discovery of large fissures in the desert floor near the ruins, which some believe could be evidence of seismic activity. Yet another possibility is that Ubar's disappearance was the result of human action, whether through warfare or overexploitation of resources. The riches and power of the kingdom, which were described as immense, could have attracted the attention of rival powers or neighboring tribes. The city's fall may have been the result of an external invasion, leading to its destruction and eventual abandonment. Alternatively, internal strife or a collapse in the leadership structure could have destabilized the society, causing it to crumble from within. Despite the tantalizing clues, the true cause of Ubar's disappearance remains shrouded in mystery. The combination of myth, legend, and scant archaeological evidence makes it difficult to draw definitive conclusions about what happened to this legendary kingdom. Was Ubar a victim of nature's wrath, as the ancient texts suggest? Or was its fall the result of a more complex series of events, involving a combination of environmental collapse, political turmoil, and external pressures? As we reflect on the story of Ubar, we are reminded of the fragility of human civilizations and the forces that shape their rise and fall. The legend of Ubar, like the myths of Troy and Atlantis, serves as a powerful reminder of how even the most powerful kingdoms can vanish, leaving only fragments of their existence behind. The shifting sands of the desert may have swallowed Ubar, but the mystery of its fate continues to captivate our imaginations, reminding us that the past is often a place of both wonder and uncertainty. The ruins of Ubar, if they are indeed the remnants of this lost kingdom, stand as silent witnesses to a once great civilization that vanished into time. The lessons of Ubar, like those of other lost worlds, are not just about the events that led to its destruction, but about the impermanence of human achievement. It reminds us that civilizations, no matter how powerful or wealthy, are always vulnerable to the forces of nature, time, and fate. And as we continue to search for the answers to the riddle of Ubar, we are left with a haunting reflection. Perhaps, like the sands of the desert, all things, no matter how great, are destined to fade away. In the vast, rugged deserts of the American Southwest, a civilization once flourished, leaving behind intricate cliff dwellings, sophisticated pottery, and an enduring mystery that continues to baffle archaeologists and historians. The Anasazi, also known as the ancient Puebloans, were a Native American culture that thrived in what is now Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah. Between 900 and 1300 CE, they built impressive multi-story dwellings in the cliffs, creating a network of communities connected by ancient trade routes and shared cultural practices. Yet, in the 13th century, after centuries of prosperity, the Anasazi vanished. Their cliff dwellings were abandoned, their cities deserted, and their culture seemingly disappeared, leaving behind only the haunting ruins of their once thriving civilization. What happened to the Anasazi, and why did they abandon their impressive cliff homes in such a sudden and dramatic fashion? The Anasazi were known for their remarkable architectural feats. They built intricate stone dwellings, many of which were perched high in the cliffs, offering both protection from potential enemies and strategic views of the surrounding landscape. These dwellings, such as those found in places like Mesa Verde and Chaco Canyon, were not mere shelters but sophisticated structures, complete with ceremonial chambers, storage rooms, and complex layouts. The Anasazi also developed advanced irrigation systems, allowing them to grow crops in the harsh desert environment. Their ability to create thriving communities in such an unforgiving landscape is a testament to their ingenuity and resourcefulness. However, by the end of the 13th century, these once thriving communities began to collapse. The cliff dwellings, which had once symbolized the Anasazi's success, were left empty, and their cities slowly fell into ruin. Archaeologists have long sought to understand the cause of this mysterious disappearance, and several theories have emerged, each offering a different explanation for why the Anasazi vanished so abruptly. One of the leading theories centers around environmental factors. The American Southwest, where the Anasazi lived, is characterized by its extreme climate, with scorching summers and frigid winters. Over time, the region began to experience prolonged periods of drought, which would have severely impacted the Anasazi's agricultural systems. The Anasazi relied heavily on irrigation to grow crops, and the climate shift could have reduced the availability of water, leading to crop failures and food shortages. As the drought worsened, the once thriving communities could have been unable to sustain their populations, forcing the people to abandon their homes in search of more reliable water sources. In addition to environmental stress, there is evidence of social upheaval that may have contributed to the collapse of the Anasazi civilization. The Anasazi were not a unified empire, but a collection of diverse and often competing groups. Archaeological findings suggest that during the years leading up to their decline, there were signs of increased conflict among different Anasazi communities. Violent clashes, indicated by evidence of weaponry and defensive structures, suggest that competition for resources, particularly water and arable land, may have led to societal fragmentation. The increased tension and internal strife could have weakened the cohesion of the Anasazi civilization, making it more susceptible to collapse. Another possibility is that the Anasazi were forced to abandon their homes due to external pressures. The American Southwest was home to a variety of other Native American groups, some of which may have competed with the Anasazi for resources. It is possible that neighboring tribes, such as the Hohokam or the Mogollon, exerted pressure on the Anasazi, either through trade disruptions or direct conflict. There are even theories that suggest that the Anasazi may have been displaced by invading groups, forcing them to leave their established settlements and seek refuge elsewhere. While there is little direct evidence of large-scale invasions, the possibility of external pressures cannot be ruled out. Furthermore, the religious and cultural practices of the Anasazi may have played a role in their abandonment of their settlements. The Anasazi were deeply spiritual, and their culture was closely intertwined with their beliefs in the supernatural and their relationship with the land. Some researchers have suggested that the people of the Southwest experienced a spiritual crisis, possibly related to their inability to control the forces of nature. As the droughts worsened and their agricultural systems collapsed, it is conceivable that the Anasazi might have believed that their gods had abandoned them, leading to a crisis of faith and a breakdown in the social order. This would have compounded the other stresses they were facing, further contributing to their decision to abandon their homes. Despite these theories, no single explanation can fully account for the disappearance of the Anasazi. It is likely that a combination of environmental, social, and cultural factors contributed to their downfall. The abandonment of their cliff dwellings was not a single cataclysmic event, but rather a gradual process, occurring over several decades. Some Anasazi groups migrated to other areas, while others likely merged with neighboring cultures, leading to a blending of traditions and the eventual assimilation into other societies. The mystery of the Anasazi's disappearance is compounded by the fact that they left behind little direct evidence of why they abandoned their homes. Unlike other ancient civilizations, there are no written records or inscriptions that explain the reasons for their sudden departure. The lack of written language and historical documentation makes it difficult to piece together the final years of the Anasazi civilization. What we are left with are the ruins. Empty homes perch high in the cliffs, their walls etched with the stories of a people who once thrived in this harsh land. The ruins of the Anasazi civilization, such as those at Chaco Canyon and Mesa Verde, stand as silent reminders of a once great culture. Their sudden disappearance raises profound questions about the fragility of human societies and the forces that can bring even the most sophisticated civilizations to their knees. The Anasazi may have vanished, but their legacy endures in the remains of their impressive dwellings and the mysteries that surround their downfall. As we reflect on their story, we are reminded of how even the most advanced societies can disappear, leaving only the faintest traces of their existence for future generations to uncover. The story of the Anasazi is a reminder that no civilization, no matter how advanced or resourceful, is immune to the unpredictable forces of nature, politics, and time. Long before the rise of Rome, the Italian peninsula was home to the Etruscans, a civilization that flourished between the 8th and 3rd centuries BCE. Known for their advanced culture, skilled craftsmanship, and powerful city-states, the Etruscans were one of the most influential civilizations of the ancient Mediterranean. They had a profound impact on the early Romans, contributing to their art, religion, and even their governmental structure. Yet, despite their significant influence on Roman culture, the Etruscans mysteriously disappeared, leaving behind a legacy that is still shrouded in mystery. What caused the downfall of the Etruscan civilization, and why did they vanish so suddenly, leaving no clear explanation for their disappearance? The Etruscans were a unique people whose origins remain a subject of debate among historians. Some scholars believe they were native to Italy, while others suggest they came from the Near East, possibly from Anatolia, modern-day Turkey. What is certain is that the Etruscans were highly skilled in metalworking, pottery, and fresco painting. Their cities, such as Veii, Tarquinia, and Cerveteri, were urban centers with impressive architecture, including elaborate tombs and monumental temples. They also had a rich religious life, with a pantheon of gods and elaborate rituals that would later influence Roman religious practices. The Etruscans' ability to control trade routes and their early use of written language, adopted from the Greek alphabet, made them a formidable power in the ancient Mediterranean. However, by the end of the 4th century BCE, the Etruscan civilization began to decline. Despite their initial strength and influence, the Etruscans were gradually absorbed by their more powerful neighbors, particularly the Romans. The fall of the Etruscan civilization is often seen as a precursor to the rise of Rome, but the reasons behind their disappearance remain unclear. Unlike other ancient civilizations, the Etruscans left behind no written records that explain their collapse. Their cities were abandoned, their culture absorbed by Rome, and the very name Etruscan disappeared from history, replaced by the Roman term Tuscan, a name that endures to this day, though in a completely different context. One theory suggests that the decline of the Etruscans was caused by external pressures, particularly from the growing power of Rome. The Etruscans were initially a strong force in Italy, but as Rome expanded, it began to encroach on Etruscan territory. By the 4th century BCE, Rome had begun to dominate the Italian peninsula, conquering Etruscan cities one by one. The Etruscans, while still powerful, were unable to withstand the might of the Roman legions. Their cities fell, and their once influential culture was absorbed into the Roman Republic. The last of the Etruscan city-states fell in 264 BCE, marking the effective end of the civilization. However, the decline of the Etruscans cannot be explained solely by Roman conquest. Several scholars have argued that internal factors also played a significant role in their collapse. One possible reason for the Etruscans' downfall is the disruption of their social and political structure. The Etruscan society was divided into city-states, each ruled by a wealthy elite. These elites controlled trade and resources, which may have led to internal tensions and competition for power. As Roman influence grew, the Etruscans may have been unable to maintain unity among their cities, leading to a fragmentation of their culture and a weakening of their power. Additionally, the rise of new powers, such as the Gauls and Samnites, may have further destabilized the Etruscan world, making them more vulnerable to Roman expansion. Another factor that may have contributed to the decline of the Etruscans is their inability to adapt to changing military tactics. The Roman military system, with its highly disciplined legions and innovative strategies, proved to be far more effective than the Etruscan armies, which were based on outdated methods of warfare. The Romans were able to conquer Etruscan cities not just through brute force, but through strategic alliances and military superiority. The Etruscans, once renowned for their military prowess, were gradually overwhelmed by the more advanced and organized Roman forces, leading to their eventual submission. While these external pressures and internal struggles likely contributed to the Etruscan collapse, there are other theories that suggest more mysterious causes for their disappearance. Some have proposed that the Etruscans were the victims of a series of environmental disasters, such as earthquakes, floods, or droughts, which may have disrupted their agricultural systems and made their cities uninhabitable. The Etruscans were highly dependent on their land and its resources, and any disruption to the environment could have led to a collapse of their economy and social order. Additionally, some suggest that the Etruscans were the victims of a plague or other disease that decimated their population, leading to the abandonment of their cities and the eventual absorption of their culture by Rome. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Etruscan collapse is the fact that they left behind no definitive explanation for their disappearance. Unlike the Maya, who left records of their own decline, or the Egyptians, who chronicled their history through monumental inscriptions, the Etruscans did not provide any written account of their fall. What remains of their civilization are their tombs, frescoes, and artifacts, which offer only glimpses into their once thriving culture. The Etruscan language, which was never fully deciphered, is another mystery that has yet to be unraveled. While some inscriptions have been found, they do not provide enough information to tell the full story of the Etruscans' rise and fall. As we reflect on the mystery of the Etruscan disappearance, we are confronted with the fragility of even the most powerful civilizations. The Etruscans were a people of great achievements, with their art, architecture, and religious practices shaping the foundations of Roman culture. Yet, despite their strength, they were unable to withstand the pressures of time, conflict, and changing political landscapes. The story of the Etruscans is a poignant reminder that civilizations, no matter how advanced, are vulnerable to the forces that shape history. Their legacy endures in the ruins they left behind, but their sudden disappearance remains one of the most intriguing mysteries of the ancient world. Through the Etruscans, we learn that no civilization is truly invincible, and that even the most influential cultures can be swallowed by the sands of time, leaving only traces for future generations to uncover. On the sun-kissed island of Crete, a remarkable civilization once flourished, weaving a tapestry of art, architecture, and culture that would influence the ancient world for centuries to come. The Minoans, as they are known, were one of the first great cultures of Europe, living during the Aegean Bronze Age, from roughly 2000 BCE to 1450 BCE. They established a vibrant and prosperous society, with grand palaces, sophisticated art, and an impressive maritime empire that spanned much of the Aegean Sea. Their influence extended far beyond their island home, reaching as far as Egypt and Mesopotamia. Yet, for all their accomplishments, the Minoans disappeared with alarming suddenness, leaving behind only their ruins, magnificent frescoes, and the mystery of their vanishing. What caused the collapse of this advanced civilization, and why did such a thriving society vanish so abruptly? At the heart of Minoan civilization was the Great Palace at Knossos, which served as both the political and ceremonial center of their society. The palace, with its labyrinthine hallways, vibrant frescoes, and sophisticated plumbing system, stands as a testament to the Minoans' architectural ingenuity and their complex social organization. The walls of Knossos and other Minoan sites were adorned with vivid frescoes that depicted scenes of nature, religious rituals, and daily life, giving us an intimate look into the world of the Minoans. Their art, especially their depictions of bull leaping, suggests a culture deeply tied to both ritual and sport, with bulls playing a central symbolic role in their religious practices. The Minoans were also renowned for their advanced technology, particularly in the fields of metallurgy and pottery. They mastered the art of bronze working, producing intricate weapons, tools, and jewelry that were highly prized throughout the ancient Mediterranean. Their pottery, adorned with striking designs, is still regarded as some of the finest ever created. But it was not just their material achievements that set the Minoans apart. Their society was also highly organized. Evidence suggests that they had a complex bureaucracy, with written records inscribed in a script known as linear, although it remains undeciphered. Their economy was based on trade, and they controlled crucial maritime routes that connected them with Egypt, the Levant, and even the distant lands of the Near East. Yet despite their achievements and their widespread influence, the Minoans experienced a sudden and dramatic collapse around 1450 BCE. The cause of this collapse has been a subject of debate among scholars for over a century, and several theories have been proposed to explain their mysterious disappearance. One of the most widely accepted theories is that the Minoans were struck by a massive natural disaster, the eruption of the Thera volcano, modern-day Santorini, which was one of the most powerful volcanic events in recorded history. The eruption would have released an enormous cloud of ash and debris, causing widespread devastation across the Aegean region. It is believed that the eruption triggered a series of tsunamis, which would have devastated the Minoan coastal cities, including those at Knossos and other important centers. The eruption, combined with the ash fall, would have led to crop failures, loss of trade routes, and a breakdown of the social and economic structure that supported Minoan civilization. The eruption of Thera is thought to have had a profound impact on Minoan society, severely disrupting their agricultural production and their ability to maintain their cities. The Minoans, whose economy was deeply tied to their agricultural output, would have faced a sudden and catastrophic loss of resources. The tsunami waves that followed the eruption could have submerged coastal settlements, destroying homes, palaces, and harbors, leaving the Minoans vulnerable to further hardship. Some evidence suggests that the Minoans attempted to rebuild after the eruption, but their society never fully recovered. The once great palaces and cities began to fall into decline, and by around 1450 BCE, the Minoans had effectively disappeared as a distinct cultural entity. However, the eruption of Thera, while undoubtedly a catastrophic event, may not have been the sole cause of the Minoans' collapse. Some scholars suggest that other factors, both internal and external, could have contributed to their downfall. One possibility is that the Minoans were weakened by political instability and internal conflict. The collapse of their palatial system, which had served as the center of their economy and culture, may have led to a breakdown in their political structure. Evidence of destruction and fire at some Minoan sites, including Knossos, suggests that the Minoans may have experienced violent upheaval, possibly related to power struggles or invasions. Another theory posits that the Minoans were gradually overtaken by outside forces. The Mycenaeans, a Greek civilization that arose on the mainland during the Late Bronze Age, are thought to have had increasing influence over the Aegean region. It is possible that the Mycenaeans, who were known for their military prowess and their expansionist policies, gradually encroached on Minoan territory. The Mycenaeans may have either directly invaded Minoan lands or exerted economic and political pressure, contributing to the Minoans' decline. Over time, the Minoans may have been absorbed into Mycenaean culture, losing their distinct identity as a result of foreign domination. Despite these theories, the full extent of the Minoans' collapse remains elusive. Some believe that their decline was a slow process, influenced by multiple factors that interacted over time. The eruption of Thera, natural disasters, social upheaval, and external pressures likely combined to bring about the end of the Minoan civilization. What is clear is that the Minoans were one of the most advanced societies of the ancient world, and their disappearance remains one of history's great mysteries. Today, the ruins of Minoan cities, such as Knossos, still stand as silent reminders of a civilization that reached remarkable heights before vanishing from the historical record. The frescoes, pottery, and artifacts they left behind continue to fascinate and inspire, offering a glimpse into a world of sophistication and beauty. Yet the question remains, what happened to the Minoans? Was it a natural disaster, political collapse, or external invasion that led to their demise? The mystery of their disappearance continues to captivate scholars and laypeople alike, offering a haunting reminder that even the most advanced civilizations are vulnerable to the unpredictable forces of nature, time, and history. As we contemplate the Minoan legacy, we are reminded of how easily history can erase even the greatest achievements, leaving only fragments for future generations to uncover. Long before the Roman Empire cast its shadow over the Mediterranean, there was a civilization that ruled the seas with unmatched skill and ambition. The Phoenicians, whose cities dotted the coast of modern-day Lebanon, Syria, and Israel, were the ancient world's premier seafarers, traders, and navigators. They were the creators of one of the first alphabetic writing systems and founded some of the earliest and most influential colonies in the Mediterranean. The Phoenicians were an extraordinary people, mastering the art of shipbuilding, navigation, and commerce, spreading their influence as far as North Africa, Spain, and even the British Isles. Yet despite their remarkable achievements and their profound impact on the ancient world, the Phoenicians ultimately disappeared from history, their cities falling into ruin and their identity slowly being absorbed by other powers. What caused the demise of this extraordinary civilization, and why did they vanish from the historical stage, leaving only their legacy in the form of scattered ruins and mysterious artifacts? The Phoenicians were primarily known for their mastery of the sea. With their exceptional shipbuilding techniques, they constructed sturdy, fast vessels that allowed them to navigate the Mediterranean with remarkable efficiency. Their ships were built for both trade and warfare, and their fleets controlled the seas for centuries. The Phoenicians established a network of maritime trade routes that spanned from the eastern Mediterranean to the farthest reaches of the western Mediterranean. From their home cities of Tyre, Sidon, and Byblos, they traded goods such as timber, textiles, glass, and, most famously, purple dye, which was extracted from mollusks and became a symbol of royalty and wealth. The Phoenicians also introduced the world to the concept of the alphabet, simplifying writing by using characters to represent sounds rather than entire words or concepts, a system that would lay the foundation for many modern languages. Phoenician influence extended far beyond the shores of the Levant. They established colonies in far-flung places, including Carthage in North Africa, which would later rise to power and become one of Rome's greatest rivals. The Phoenicians also established trading outposts in Sicily, Sardinia, Malta, and even as far west as Spain. Their ability to adapt to diverse cultures and trade with many different peoples made them one of the most cosmopolitan civilizations of their time. However, despite their remarkable success, the Phoenicians experienced a dramatic decline by the 6th century BCE. The reasons for their fall are as complex as the civilization itself, but several key factors contributed to their eventual disappearance. One of the most significant factors in the decline of the Phoenician civilization was the rise of new powers in the Mediterranean. The Phoenicians, for all their maritime prowess, were never a unified empire. Instead, they were a collection of city-states, each with its own political and economic system. While this provided flexibility and adaptability, it also made them vulnerable to external threats. The rise of the Assyrian Empire in the 8th century BCE, followed by the Babylonian Empire in the 6th century BCE, put immense pressure on Phoenician trade routes and colonies. These empires sought to dominate the Mediterranean and, in doing so, began to undermine Phoenician influence. The Phoenician cities, which had once been independent and powerful, found themselves caught in the crossfire of imperial ambitions, weakening their control over the region. Yet, it was the rise of the Greek and Roman powers that ultimately sealed the Phoenician fate. The Greeks, known for their own naval prowess, began to encroach on Phoenician trade routes, eventually surpassing them in both military and commercial influence. As Greek colonies spread throughout the Mediterranean, they directly competed with Phoenician trading hubs, causing economic strain on Phoenician cities. By the time Rome rose to prominence, the Phoenicians were no longer the uncontested rulers of the Mediterranean. The Roman Republic, with its increasingly powerful navy and expanding empire, began to challenge Phoenician dominance, culminating in the eventual destruction of the Phoenician capital, Carthage, during the Third Punic War in 146 BCE. The fall of Carthage was a pivotal moment in Phoenician history. For centuries, Carthage had been the most powerful Phoenician colony, rivaling Rome in both military might and wealth. However, after 3 devastating wars known as the Punic Wars, Rome finally defeated Carthage, razing the city to the ground and effectively ending Phoenician independence in the Mediterranean. Following the destruction of Carthage, the remnants of Phoenician civilization were absorbed into the Roman Empire, and the distinct identity of the Phoenicians began to fade from history. What had once been a powerful maritime empire was now little more than a shadow, its people and culture subsumed by the growing might of Rome. Yet, the Phoenician legacy did not disappear entirely. Despite their fall, the Phoenicians had left an indelible mark on the Mediterranean world. Their alphabet became the basis for both Greek and Latin scripts, and their trading practices and innovations in shipbuilding influenced cultures throughout the ancient world. The cities they had built, such as Carthage, became important centers of Roman life, and many of their cultural and technological contributions lived on through the Roman Empire. The mystery of the Phoenicians' disappearance, however, remains. While their influence endured, their culture eventually became indistinguishable from that of the Roman world. The exact reasons for their decline are still debated, but it is clear that a combination of external pressures, internal fragmentation, and the rise of powerful empires contributed to their ultimate collapse. The Phoenicians, once the undisputed masters of the sea, were overtaken by forces beyond their control, leaving behind only traces of their once great civilization. The ruins of Phoenician cities and the artifacts they left behind continue to fascinate archaeologists and historians to this day. From the city of Byblos, where evidence of early Phoenician writing was discovered, to the remnants of Carthage, which once stood as a formidable rival to Rome, the legacy of the Phoenicians endures in the artifacts they left behind. Yet, despite their profound contributions to the ancient world, the Phoenicians remain a mysterious civilization, their sudden disappearance leaving us with only fragments of their remarkable story. Through their legacy, we are reminded of the fragility of even the most powerful empires and how the tides of history can shift, leaving entire civilizations lost to time. The Phoenicians may have vanished from history, but their impact on the world continues to resonate, a testament to their extraordinary achievements and their ultimate fall into the shadows of history. In the fertile plains of the Indus Valley, a thriving civilization once flourished, its cities sophisticated and its society highly organized. The Harappan civilization, also known as the Indus Valley Civilization, emerged around 3,300 BCE, reaching its peak around 2,500 BCE. It spanned a vast region that stretched from present-day Pakistan to northwest India, with its most famous urban centers being Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro. Known for its advanced urban planning, hydraulic engineering, and extensive trade networks, the Harappans were one of the world's earliest and most advanced societies. Yet, despite their remarkable achievements, the Harappan civilization mysteriously declined and eventually vanished around 1900 BCE. The reasons behind this dramatic collapse have perplexed historians and archaeologists for more than a century. What caused the downfall of the Harappan civilization? And why did this once great culture vanish into history, leaving behind only the ruins of their cities and the silence of their lost language? The Harappans built some of the earliest urban centers in human history, cities that were laid out with a level of planning that was far ahead of its time. Harappa, Mohenjo-Daro, and other urban centers were carefully constructed with well-organized streets, sophisticated drainage systems, and multi-story buildings made of fire bricks. The Harappans also developed a form of writing, though it remains undeciphered to this day, and a system of weights and measures that enabled trade and commerce to flourish. Archaeological evidence suggests that the Harappan people were skilled in metallurgy, pottery, and textile production, and they engaged in extensive trade with neighboring regions, including Mesopotamia and Persia. They traded goods such as cotton, textiles, beads, and precious stones, which were highly valued across the ancient world. Yet despite these advancements, the Harappan civilization began to experience a dramatic decline around 1900 BCE. The reasons for this collapse are still debated, but several theories have been put forward to explain the fall of this once great society. One of the most widely discussed explanations is environmental change. The Harappans relied heavily on the Indus River and its tributaries for irrigation and agriculture, but over time, the climate in the region began to change. Some scholars suggest that the Indus River, which had been a vital source of water for agriculture, began to shift its course, making the region less hospitable for farming. Additionally, evidence of widespread droughts has been found in the region, suggesting that the climate became more arid, which would have had a devastating impact on the agricultural output of the Indus Valley. Environmental stress may have been compounded by another significant factor, the overexploitation of natural resources. The Harappans were dependent on resources such as wood, water, and fertile land, and there is evidence that these resources may have been stretched to their limits. Deforestation, likely caused by the need for firewood and building materials, could have contributed to soil erosion and a decline in agricultural productivity. As the region became less capable of sustaining its population, the Harappans may have found it increasingly difficult to maintain their cities and infrastructure. The collapse of their agricultural base would have led to food shortages, economic strain, and ultimately the abandonment of urban centers. Another theory posits that the decline of the Harappan civilization was caused by political instability and social unrest. While the Harappan society was highly organized, with its cities functioning as centers of trade and administration, there is little evidence to suggest a strong, centralized political structure. Instead, the Harappans may have had a more decentralized system, with local leaders or councils governing each city. This system may have made it difficult for the civilization to respond effectively to external pressures or internal conflicts. Archaeological evidence shows signs of violence and destruction at some Harappan sites, suggesting that conflict, whether internal strife or external invasion, could have contributed to the collapse. However, there is little concrete evidence of widespread warfare, leading many scholars to question whether conflict played a major role in the Harappan downfall. In addition to these environmental and social factors, some have suggested that the decline of the Harappans was related to the growing influence of neighboring cultures, particularly the Indo-Aryans. The arrival of Indo-Aryan groups in the region around 1500 BCE has been associated with the collapse of the Harappan cities. These Indo-Aryans, who spoke an early form of the languages that would later become Sanskrit, may have brought with them new agricultural practices, technologies, and ways of life that displaced the Harappan culture. The Harappans, whose cities were already under strain, may have been unable to withstand the pressures exerted by the new arrivals, leading to the gradual collapse of their civilization. Yet, despite these theories, no single explanation can fully account for the disappearance of the Harappan civilization. The decline of the Harappans was likely a complex, multifaceted process, influenced by a combination of environmental, social, and political factors. The collapse did not happen overnight. Rather, it occurred gradually over several centuries. By the time the Harappan cities were abandoned, the civilization that had once thrived in the Indus Valley had disappeared, leaving behind only enigmatic ruins and an undeciphered script. The legacy of the Harappans lives on in the ruins of their cities. The sophisticated urban planning of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, with their grid-like streets, drainage systems, and public baths, continues to astonish modern archaeologists. The artifacts they left behind, pottery, seals, and jewelry, reveal a society that was highly advanced in both craftsmanship and trade. Yet, despite the richness of the archaeological record, the story of the Harappan civilization remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the ancient world. The question of why the Harappans disappeared remains unanswered, and the lack of written records only deepens the enigma. Their language, as mentioned, remains undeciphered, leaving us without a clear understanding of their beliefs, governance, and the events that led to their downfall. What we know of the Harappans is largely pieced together from the remains of their cities and the objects they left behind, offering only glimpses into a once great civilization that vanished from the historical stage. In the end, the mystery of the Harappan civilization serves as a poignant reminder of the fragility of human achievement. Even the most advanced societies can disappear, leaving behind only ruins and unanswered questions. The Harappans were among the first to build cities and engage in large-scale trade. And yet, despite their remarkable accomplishments, their civilization was swept away by forces beyond their control. As we reflect on the rise and fall of the Harappan civilization, we are reminded of the impermanence of even the most sophisticated cultures and the uncertainty that surrounds the fate of civilizations lost to time. In the dense jungles and lowlands of ancient Mesoamerica, a civilization arose that would lay the foundation for many of the great cultures that followed. The Olmecs, considered the mother culture of Mesoamerica, thrived between 1200 BCE and 400 BCE in what is now southern Mexico. Known for their colossal stone heads, intricate art, and early developments in writing and astronomy, the Olmecs made lasting contributions to the cultural and intellectual landscape of the Americas. Their influence extended across Mesoamerica, shaping the civilizations of the Maya, Aztecs, and other great cultures that would emerge in the centuries to come. Despite their monumental achievements, the Olmec civilization mysteriously disappeared by the end of the first millennium BCE, leaving behind a legacy that continues to intrigue and puzzle historians. What caused their sudden decline And why did this once dominant culture vanish from history, leaving behind only enigmatic monuments and a scattering of archaeological sites? The Olmecs are perhaps best known for their colossal stone heads, which have become iconic symbols of their civilization. These massive sculptures, some weighing several tons, are thought to represent Olmec rulers or deities, though their exact significance remains unclear. The Olmecs also created other impressive works of art, including intricate jade jewelry, carvings, and figurines, many of which were found in their religious and ceremonial centers. The sophistication of Olmec art, particularly their ability to work with jade and basalt, is a testament to their advanced technical skills and aesthetic sensibilities. Yet, the mystery of their civilization's disappearance is not limited to the loss of their artistic achievements. It extends to the very nature of their society, its organization, and the reasons behind its sudden collapse. The Olmecs were also pioneers in the development of writing and calendar systems. Evidence of their early forms of writing can be found on artifacts such as monuments and ceramics. This writing system, though not fully deciphered, is believed to be one of the earliest in the Americas. The Olmecs were also ahead of their time in their understanding of astronomy and timekeeping, with evidence suggesting they developed a sophisticated calendar system that was later adopted and refined by other Mesoamerican cultures, such as the Maya. The Olmecs' achievements in writing and calendrical knowledge were foundational to the intellectual development of Mesoamerica, influencing the cultures that followed. Another remarkable aspect of the Olmec civilization was their social and political organization. While much of their society remains a mystery, evidence suggests that the Olmecs were a centralized civilization with powerful leaders who oversaw large urban centers, such as San Lorenzo and La Venta. These cities were meticulously planned, with large ceremonial centers, pyramids, and ball courts, features that would later become common in the urban layouts of Maya and Aztec cities. The Olmec cities also had extensive trade networks, with evidence of exchanges reaching as far as the Gulf Coast of the United States and the highlands of central Mexico. Their ability to control such vast trade routes points to a highly organized society, capable of producing surplus goods and managing complex political and economic systems. Despite their achievements, the Olmec civilization began to experience a decline around 400 BCE, and by the end of the first millennium BCE, their cities were largely abandoned. The reasons for this sudden disappearance are still debated, but several theories have been proposed to explain the collapse of the Olmec civilization. One possibility is environmental change, particularly the impact of natural disasters such as floods or hurricanes, which could have disrupted the Olmecs' agricultural systems and their ability to sustain large urban centers. The Olmecs relied heavily on their agricultural output, and any significant shift in the environment, such as prolonged droughts or a disruption in river patterns, could have led to food shortages, making their cities unsustainable. Another theory suggests that the decline of the Olmecs was linked to internal social unrest. The Olmec civilization was highly hierarchical, with a small elite class controlling the bulk of the resources. It is possible that the societal structure created tensions, leading to rebellion or internal strife. Archaeological evidence shows signs of destruction at some Olmec sites, which may suggest violent uprisings or a breakdown in political order. In addition, the Olmecs' reliance on a centralized political system may have made them vulnerable to shifts in power, leading to a fragmentation of their society and the eventual abandonment of their cities. In addition to these internal and environmental factors, the rise of other cultures may have played a role in the Olmecs' decline. The decline of San Lorenzo, one of the Olmecs' most powerful cities, coincided with the emergence of other Mesoamerican civilizations, particularly the Zapotecs and the Maya. These cultures may have gradually replaced the Olmecs as the dominant forces in the region, either through competition, conquest, or cultural assimilation. The Olmecs, who had been the leading civilization in Mesoamerica for centuries, may have been displaced by these rising powers, leading to the eventual collapse of their cities and the dissolution of their society. Despite the theories that exist, the exact cause of the Olmecs' disappearance remains shrouded in mystery. What is clear is that the civilization did not vanish overnight, but rather experienced a gradual decline over several centuries. By the time the Olmecs disappeared, their cultural influence had already been felt throughout Mesoamerica, and many of their innovations, particularly in art, architecture, and calendar systems, were adopted by the Maya and later cultures. The Olmecs' architectural legacy, their ball courts, and their religious symbols all became important features of Mesoamerican civilization, demonstrating that even in decline, the Olmec civilization continued to influence the region. The Olmec civilization left behind monumental artifacts that continue to captivate archaeologists and historians today. The colossal stone heads, with their enigmatic expressions, stand as silent witnesses to a society that was both sophisticated and mysterious. Yet, despite their cultural contributions, the Olmecs remain an elusive people, their language, political systems, and true causes of their decline hidden beneath the layers of time. As we reflect on the disappearance of the Olmecs, we are reminded of the impermanence of even the most advanced civilizations. The Olmecs were the architects of many of the cultural and intellectual developments that shaped Mesoamerica, yet their civilization ultimately fell into obscurity, leaving behind only the haunting remnants of their once great society. Their collapse serves as a reminder that no civilization, no matter how influential, is immune to the forces of time, environmental change, and shifting political landscapes. The Olmecs may have vanished, but their legacy lives on in the ruins of their cities and the monuments they left behind, continuing to intrigue and inspire generations of scholars and explorers in search of answers to the mysteries of their rise and fall. As we close the journey through the ancient worlds that vanished seemingly in a single night, we find ourselves contemplating a profound question. What can the mysteries of these long-lost civilizations teach us about the fragility of human achievement and the unpredictable forces of time? The stories of the Etruscans, the Minoans, the Harappans, the Phoenicians, and the Olmecs, civilizations that once thrived with remarkable advancements, have all become part of a grand historical puzzle, each piece offering tantalizing clues but few definitive answers. They remind us that even the most powerful and sophisticated cultures, no matter how impressive their accomplishments, are vulnerable to the inexorable march of history. As we explore their rise and fall, we begin to understand that the true mysteries of these ancient worlds lie not just in their sudden disappearance, but in the questions they leave behind. Questions that continue to echo through the corridors of time. The vanished civilizations we have discussed were not merely footnotes in history, but foundational cultures that shaped the very fabric of human civilization. The Etruscans, for example, were instrumental in influencing the rise of Rome, their art, religion, and political systems leaving an indelible mark on the Roman world. The Minoans, with their advanced architecture and early writing systems, laid the groundwork for the later Greek civilizations, whose ideas and art would shape Western thought for millennia. The Harappans were one of the first to develop urban planning, creating cities with advanced drainage systems and standardized weights and measures, setting the stage for future developments in urbanization. The Phoenicians, with their mastery of the seas and their alphabet, had an immeasurable impact on the development of trade and communication across the Mediterranean, influencing both the Greeks and Romans. The Olmecs, often called the mother culture of Mesoamerica, were the architects of the Mesoamerican calendar and left behind a legacy of monumental art and architecture that would inspire the Maya and Aztec civilizations. What is striking, however, is how these once great civilizations, some of the earliest and most advanced in human history, seemingly disappeared in the blink of an eye. The Etruscans, once the rulers of central Italy, vanished from history as their cities were absorbed by Rome, their name and identity lost in the shadow of the empire. The Minoans, despite their brilliance in art and architecture, were wiped from the historical record by natural disasters and changing political forces, their civilization swallowed by time. The Harappan civilization, one of the oldest urban societies in the world, disappeared without a trace of written explanation, leaving us only with the cryptic remains of their cities and their undeciphered script. The Phoenicians, once the masters of the Mediterranean, were overrun by the Romans, their cities destroyed, and their distinct identity absorbed into the empire. And the Olmecs, whose artistic and intellectual contributions shaped much of Mesoamerican culture, fell into obscurity, their cities abandoned, and their people dispersed, leaving behind only their colossal heads and scattered artifacts. The question that naturally arises is, why did these civilizations disappear so suddenly? Why did they vanish without leaving clear records of their downfall? While environmental factors, such as natural disasters and changing climates, may have played a role in some cases, the true causes of their collapse are far more elusive. Was it internal conflict, political instability, or social fragmentation that led to their disintegration? Did they fall prey to external forces, such as invasion or conquest? Or was their disappearance a slow, gradual process, driven by economic decline, loss of resources, or the shifting tides of power? The answers to these questions remain as murky as the sands of time that have swallowed these civilizations whole. What makes their stories even more compelling is the paradox they present. These cultures were not only advanced in their time, but they were also deeply connected to the natural world around them. The Etruscans, Minoans, Harappans, Phoenicians, and Olmecs each had complex relationships with their environments, developing sophisticated agricultural systems, intricate trade networks, and impressive architectural feats. Yet, in the end, it seems that the very forces they relied upon, whether it was the river systems that sustained them, the trade routes that connected them, or the political structures that held them together, were the same forces that contributed to their undoing. Natural disasters, shifting rivers, changing climates, and the rise of new empires all played their part in the ultimate collapse of these once thriving civilizations. However, these ancient civilizations did not vanish without leaving a mark. Despite the mystery surrounding their disappearances, the legacies they left behind continue to shape our world today. The art, architecture, and technologies developed by these cultures influence countless other societies, and many of their innovations, such as the Phoenician alphabet, Minoan calendar systems, or Harappan urban planning, were passed down through generations and adopted by the civilizations that followed. The Etruscans' influence on Rome is still evident in Roman art, religion, and architecture, while the Olmecs' monumental stone heads continue to captivate the imagination of modern-day archaeologists and historians. The ruins of their cities, whether the towering walls of the Etruscan cities, the labyrinthine streets of the Minoans, or the colossal stone statues of the Olmecs, serve as silent reminders of a time long past, sparking curiosity and inspiring wonder. As we reflect on these lost worlds, we are reminded of the transient nature of human civilization. Even the most enduring cultures, once powerful and influential, are vulnerable to the forces of time, nature, and change. The rise and fall of these civilizations are part of a larger historical pattern, a pattern that reveals both the resilience and fragility of human societies. Each civilization that vanished left behind a trail of clues, hints, and mysteries, and in studying these lost cultures, we gain valuable insights not only into their lives, but also into our own existence. The mysteries they leave behind challenge us to think about our place in history and the forces that shape the course of human civilization. The ancient worlds that vanished in a single night remind us that history is both a record of human achievement and a testament to our vulnerability. We look at the ruins of these once great civilizations, and we can't help but wonder, what will remain of our world for future generations? What will they uncover in the layers of time? What civilizations will rise and fall in the future, and how will they be remembered? In the end, the vanished worlds of the past are not just stories of loss, but of perseverance, innovation, and the indelible marks left on the fabric of human history. As we draw this exploration to a close, the mysteries of these ancient civilizations continue to haunt us, not just as historical puzzles to be solved, but as poignant reminders of the ephemeral nature of all human endeavors. Whether through the fragmented remains of their cities, their lost languages, or their scattered artifacts, these civilizations continue to speak to us across time, urging us to look closer, listen harder, and appreciate the fleeting yet significant moments of human achievement that have shaped the course of history. Their stories may be lost, but their echoes endure, resonating through the ages. And in those echoes, we find a timeless reminder that, even in disappearance, civilizations leave their mark upon the world.